Chapter 26. The Third Heaven and the 12th Teacher, the Valkyrie. There ahead was the edge of the third heaven, and down below the Milky Way. Then far above was a great throne and tower, but it seemed so far away.
They say, whoever, at any time, has undertaken to build a new heaven has found the strength for it in her own hell,
whispered a voice. We seemed to be at the brink of a tipping point, but what was this edge called?
Humans call this a fall, yet it is the descent that we've come to discuss. We will become our opposite if we do not learn to accommodate the opposition within us,
said her voice. Who are you and where are you?
I am right here, and I have descended into the world many times, as I have survived, died, and yet here we are again, still alive,
she said. And what do you do?
When called, I descend across the gap. As an angel of favors, I protect the Milky Way, supporting all life, and yet creation chose me to be the chooser of the slain,
she said. What does that mean?
I am Valkyrie,
she said. She was a powerful being, much like the psychopomp, for she had a black cloak, but she held a spinning discus in her hand, another guide or guardian for the dead. She was a type of hybrid animal, mixed with a mystical, formless shape of a woman. As we gazed down upon the Milky Way and the world, I had a hard time understanding what I observed. There seemed to be so much pain and suffering upon the earth, and I could not quite understand what had all occurred. If the misery of the poor be caused not by the laws of nature, but by our institutions, great is our sin. She nodded her head, then took a moment to contemplate. Now a halo of light grew above her crown the more time she took to concentrate.
I remember you. It's been a long time since you've been back. I feel that the worlds have taken a toll upon your soul. Why, it seems that all 4 ages have since passed,
she said. What do you mean?
Once the age of truth diminished, someone had to do something about the arrival of evil and sin. So came the council of the 24 elders, and after that, only a few volunteered to dive in,
she said. What do you mean, dive in?
In any respect of heaven, all souls are known upon any given plane. The higher heavens know who exists in the lower heavens, but the lower heavens are not necessarily equipped to know with whom the higher levels contain. We can only go up to where our soul is allowed to pass, and the guardian upon the gate of the 4th heaven carries the sword of truth. You are either pure in heart and able to pass through, or you can fall back into the world, as they call it, and be reborn as an animal, plant, creature, or human youth,
she said. But you said you recognized me, as if you've seen me here before. Then why can't I remember?
Because it is rare for a soul to enter into the holy war,
she said. Silence. This was a time to listen and observe. And so we watched the Milky Way spin, with its worlds, telling all the stories of existence, yet not a single word was heard. It spoke in rhythm and vibrations. It told us of good and evil, heroes and villains. But I don't understand.
We are destroyers of evil,
she said. Yet I do not know where I am, or what I am doing. Not so long ago I saw myself upon the earth, living in the body of a human.
Alive you are, and die you must. Only the bravest souls are willing to descend, for a calling that is just,
she said. And what type of calling is it? In that body, I see myself detached, aloof, and out of place. I followed my intuition to get here, but when I locate my body on Earth, I can barely manage to survive in that rat race. Yes, my soul is here with you, but my body is running on fumes. I cannot stand to see the world operate around so much evil. The humans seek more and more, and so they will continue to consume until the earth is in ruins.
when a soul dives in, it is due to courage and wisdom. You were aligned with the higher beings of heaven who wish to aid humanity for the great relief of all suffering. The only way to do this is to extract evil from its root. Few choose this calling, why it requires the soul to descend and face the spirit of evil. I have come to prepare you.
She said. For what?
When evil comes to consume you. To descend to earth means there is a possibility your soul could get trapped. If you build up too much karma from the consequences of your actions, you could get swept away in the ways of confusion and ignorance. Living a life means there is always the chance you will not find your way back. Of course, higher beings send signs, and we guide you the best we can. But the beauty of life on earth is hidden within the free will of all creatures, women, and men,
said the Valkyrie. But I do not condone to sin. I will not be overtaken. Evil has no bearing upon my soul. I will not forfeit my life to the will of Satan.
Then slay it,
she said. No, I will not go near it.
That's not what you said last time. That's not the promise you made. You left heaven to aid humanity, to end the darkest age,
said the Valkyrie. But how can the body be trapped down there if my soul is up here with you?
We are spiritual ambassadors, she
said. But it doesn't make any sense.
Maybe not to a living human. They have little appreciation for time travelers. And so the idea of evil cannot be properly examined without the use of the imagination. All the problems of Earth can only be understood when the human mind is exposed to the intuition of divine comprehension. And if humanity is left without a link to God, the issues of suffering, confusion, greed, and ignorance will continue to perpetuate through the living. But all it takes is a thread of God's grace to retrieve the missing wisdom,
she said. Then why does humanity call such spiritual helpers the fallen?
Humanity is lost. Look at their ways. In the age of truth, they lived in the Garden of Eden until the ways of truth were betrayed. We watched it happen so long ago. As humanity grew, our own true teachings were adjusted, sold, and then the true teachings became unknown. What started as truth was eventually forsaken. Of course, there were good men and women, but in time, the power of goodness was overtaken. Goodness is purity, and purity does not belong with violence, aggression, or war. But as corruption grew, so did the world's ignorance, and so upon this consequence, there was only one way that the truth could be restored,
she said. And what way is that?
It's called soul retrieval. But in order to restore the greatness of creation upon the earth, first, humanity must address and defeat its own evil, she said.
Why a human? Why doesn't God strike evil and kill it at once?
Because all of the evil upon earth is man-made. We are born from the God of everlasting love. It is humanity who has lost its way. Creation continues to guide them, but humanity must make up for its own past actions. It's all up to humanity as to what will happen,
she said. But why is there war? And why won't God put an end to it? Just look at the degraded age that has overtaken mankind. Look at the atrocities that mankind commits.
We are God's children. We are threads of Allah. Have you ever wondered if we are not only here to be nourished by God, but also to nourish our Creator called Jehovah? If God created us, then there is something we are here to do. Look down upon the earth. Your soul transcends time, but still the earth has a hold upon you,
she said. I wish for no part in this. Just look at my body as I wander upon the earth. I do not fit into the ways of humanity. I am a lost human, searching in a lost world.
Then if you cannot remember why you started, or where it was that we first began, look at the evil that runs rampant. Let us work to usher in the great relief of all suffering,
she said. Of course, but what am I to do? I have little control over the ways of the world, and my soul feels at home in heaven with all of you. Humanity is bound by the consequences of its actions, but only an act of God could stop such terror and war. So what do you want me to do?
I want you to rise and do what you were created for,
she said. Contemplating upon the Milky Way and the earth, still I did not understand. When it comes to living in the material world, some called me a lousy human. I had no wealth, as I worked a job. I was a poor human in a poor world, and I had no idea how the evil could be stopped. Now our sight was like a telescope, and as we gazed down to earth, I could study my body's every move. So I realized my spiritual nature could send my body signs and hints as to what actions I should choose to do. Again and again I tried, but what good was the effort of one human?
Go deeper,
she whispered.
Go all the way in. If you wish to face the evil, then make yourself one with it. Everyone else wants to avoid it, but who can unite with it? If you do this, then you will know all the truth within it.
Empty as I was, my body walked the earth as if it was vacant without a soul. Meanwhile, the Spirit directed the vessel of blood and bones from high above in ways that few will ever know. Hope seemed to be running out, like the end of a flame upon a candle. If earth needed help, then it did not need a hero, but rather a living example. My teacher spoke of a path, and she called it soul retrieval. Although I had no words to describe what I was doing, I began to lead my own body into the root of all evil. Why would I do that when I myself was alive? For if I died, my spirit could be pinned to hell, and I myself might be left behind. In an instant, my heavenly travels would perish, but what options were left? And so I put my hands together in prayer and spoke a prayer from the heart of my chest. From the point of view within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of all. Let light descend upon the entire earth. From the point of view within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of all. May Christ return to bless the earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide our small wills, the purpose which the Master knows and serves. From the center which we call the human race, let the plan of love and light work out. May it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. With that, my spirit led my living body to knock upon the door of evil, and there I let my body, mind, and spirit be consumed. What was I doing? I hadn't a clue. But in order to understand the root of evil, we must be willing to act in ways which no one else would ever do. And if you understand what you're doing, then you're not learning anything. Most people end up in the grip of evil because they crave something. But this time, I wanted nothing from it. And so the force of evil sat beside me. For I was curious about my nature, and I realized the darkness was not against me. And so I began to see the root of evil as a great teacher. She was immense and vast. She was the goddess of time and death that ruled over all of humanity. And so I began to recognize that she was a mystery. But what is your name?
Mahakali,
she said. So you're not evil. You're just the dark part of reality?
I am the primeval force of the universe. You may also call me Mahashakti,
said the dark goddess of reality. She was a formless essence of abstract energy that covered all of totality. As a mere witness, I stood by Mahakali's side, neither for the good or the bad, not for the light or dark. I seemed to walk with her along the middle way. She was ever watchful, and she was trying to wake us up. But if a human did an evil deed, I could feel a deep spark in Mahakali that would begin to burn up. All that energy was stored, and it would not simply go away. But after all this time, I realized that the actions of humanity were like a debt that must be paid. I learned to love this woman, and in time, she showed me how to overcome fear. She promised to lead me from darkness to light, and from death to immortality, but it seemed she needed something in return.
I need a body,
said Mahakali. Why, sure. That sounds all right. What type? Oh, you want mine. So why did I do it? I did it for justice and truth, for the great relief of all suffering. I gave it up so that that age of darkness would conclude. From then on, my living body began to endure severe reactions, and so darkness came to rid the poison from my mind. But time and time again, I would find that something out in the universe was sending us signs. It was us, from high up above, like a spiritual time traveler renting a living body. She was sly like a snake and simple like a dove. Evil seemed to tempt me and target me. It would even grab my body, arms, and legs. It felt like I'd been put under a terrible spell, and it was so intense that it could make the most powerful person wish they were dead. Why, Mahakali? Why must one be tortured?
Because once we survive it, you'll know how to protect life's true nature,
she said. And I would not quit. What if we are not only here to be nourished by the Creator, but also to nourish it? I realized we would never defeat the powers of evil unless we understand the power of its motive. And because the situation of our planet was so desperate, Mahakali was summoned as a way to overcome it. As I was led deeper into the conditions of darkness and evil, I learned that the path of humanity is not forsaken, but rather, most people are terrified and lost.